The story opens on a frozen battlefield, blanketed in snow and fallen soldiers. A man turns, notices the newcomer, and asks, "Is that Ash?" The leader coldly questions why he's there. His mission was to conquer the East. The wounded young man lowers his eyes in silence, then lifts his head and declares he came for one reason only: to defeat him. Holding his sword tightly, Ash reveals that from the very beginning, his father planned to use him as bait. With hatred burning in his eyes, he shouts that the man is his father, but his father responds without emotion that a foolish, wingless son is good for nothing else. His name is revealed as Ash Elmium of House Elm, a legendary military family sworn to protect the royal line. The family head is his father, Roderick, the sole wielder of the nation's 7 wings. In a flashback, Ash remembers being saved by his father during a deadly blizzard, a moment that made him devote himself to earning his father's approval. He trained harder than anyone, yet the other boys mocked and mistreated him, saying someone without wings or a crest had no right to stand proud. Unlike his father and brothers, Ash never awakened the wing crest that grants magical power, but he continued sharpening his sword and pushing himself, believing his effort would one day pay off. Back in the present, Ash and his unit move carefully through a snow-covered forest, and as he hides behind a tree to observe ahead, he realizes they are completely surrounded. They've walked straight into an ambush. Facing his father again, Ash shouts that he always believed in and followed him. But his father replies that a mere tool should not have expectations and orders him to leave. Rage fills Ash's eyes as he decides he will no longer run and will finally face his father. With a fierce cry, he charges forward, sword raised high, regretting in his heart ever being so naive, and with a powerful strike he declares he regrets believing in him. Yet even after taking the blow, his father's expression remains calm, and in the next instant, glowing energy chains bind Ash in place as his 2 brothers launch their attack. Using his own energy chains, he blocks the attack and blasts his brothers away. Rage erupts from him as he screams into the falling snow. But one brother coldly says a wingless person could never understand, while the other sneers that someone without wings belongs crawling in the dirt. Lying on the ground, Ash demands to know why his father saved him only to throw him away. Yet the clan leader calls him delusional and says he was never useful at all. The man walks over, grabs his son by the hair, and lifts him up, revealing he only saved him because of the power of the 7 wings hidden within his body. Shocked and confused, Ash wonders what the 7 wings even are. His father then adds that his mother once served her purpose well. She gave birth to a seed like him solely for his benefit. As the man turns to leave, Ash reaches out desperately, asking what he means, but one brother steps forward to deliver the final blow while Ash screams for Roderick to answer. Crushed against the frozen ground, numb from the bitter cold, he feels his hand growing weak as his vision fades, wondering if this is where his life ends and what he had even lived for. Suddenly his sight blurs, and he glimpses what seems to be a church tower. The next moment, he awakens inside a baby's body, questioning if this is the afterlife. He feels arms holding him and notices snow falling around him. With wide, stunned eyes, he realizes this isn't a dream, it's real. Still overwhelmed, the baby wonders where he is and why he's trapped in such a tiny body, staring at his small feet and fragile hands, questioning if this body truly belongs to him. The boy quickly realizes he truly is a real baby. Resting in a woman's arms, he wonders if she's even alive. Suddenly, a flash of light fills his vision and distant voices echo through the snow. Knights are searching nearby, saying the woman couldn't have gone far, and their leader orders them to retrieve the baby for its sake. Wide-eyed, little Ash freezes. Did he really hear his father's name? It dawns on him that they're looking for him. Memories of being found on a snowy night rush back, and he questions if he's somehow returned to the past. Another bright flash makes everything feel unreal, but he pushes the confusion aside. He can figure out later. Right now, he has to survive. Lying beside the woman, he knows he must escape before the ducal house finds him. With his tiny body, he begins crawling through the snow, forcing himself forward inch by inch. A faint golden aura surrounds him as he struggles on, pushing the snow away with a small, glowing hand. Breathing heavily and completely drained, he refuses to stop. His limbs burn as he drags himself across the blizzard, leaving a clear trail behind. No matter what, he's determined to live. even if he has to crawl the entire way. With fierce determination in his eyes, the little boy swears he will survive and silently vows that one day he will take revenge on Roderick with his own hands. And so, the baby keeps crawling through the endless storm. After what feels like forever, he finally collapses from exhaustion at someone's feet. At that moment, a young girl calls out to her father, pointing at the baby in the snow. The man, Viscount Heiford, is stunned to find a child in such a place. Lifting him gently, he wonders why a baby would be alone out here. Safe in the man's arms, little Ash drifts into a deep sleep. But as the Viscount looks closer, he notices something strange, the long trail behind the child. Turning back to it, he questions whether the baby crawled all that way by himself, and begins to wonder who this child truly is. Meanwhile, in a dark, empty space, another red-haired baby floats silently, confused about where he is. The boy dreams of that red-haired child, as if the mysterious baby had come searching just for him. Suddenly, Ash jolts awake when someone taps his nose. Opening his eyes, he finds himself surrounded by 4 curious little girls staring at him. Confused, he wonders what's going on as they pass him around. When one of them lifts him up, he glares and squirms angrily until he slips free, scrambling onto a table and striking a bold, defiant pose. A second later, he tries to crawl off and make his escape, but an orange-haired girl notices and shouts for him to stop. Instantly, a chaotic chase begins, the girls running after the baby while he frantically wonders why they're so determined to catch him. In desperation, he raises his tiny hand and a golden aura flares to life, his eyes glowing as he activates a mysterious power. A burst of energy blasts him upward, and he realizes he's flying with magic. But he quickly loses control and starts falling fast, unable to steer himself. Panic sets in as he plummets headfirst toward the ceiling, helpless and terrified, until strong arms catch him midair. The Viscount, holding him securely, calls him a strange child for falling from the sky. Staring at the man, Ash's eyes widen in recognition. This is Viscount Heifrid, Roderick's older brother. Taking the grand mansion around him, he wonders if this is the other Elm household. It's revealed that Heifrid Elm leads a branch of the Elm family, and in the past, he and his brother Roderick were the twin pillars protecting the royal family. But Ash remembers that the Viscount and his entire house died in a civil war. Now he's certain he truly has returned to the past. He tried escaping the ducal house only to be rescued by his father's own brother. The Viscount's wife gently explains that the baby's magic spiraled out of control and sent him flying. Smiling warmly, she shows no fear of his power and hugs him softly, whispering that it must have been frightening, but he's safe now. The little boy is stunned, never having felt such warmth before, while the Viscount watches them quietly with a serious expression. The man says the child holds an unimaginable power, then gently lifts the baby's sleeve to reveal a mark as proof. In the mirror, the woman gasps when she sees the symbol of the 7 wings engraved on the boy's arm. Ash is stunned, wondering why that mark is on his body, and his eyes widen as he remembers his father's words about needing the power of the 7 wings. In that instant, he finally understands what truly happened on that snowy night. His father saved him only to take that power for himself. Anger surges through him as he recalls being called wingless. Noticing the baby's fierce expression, the woman is left speechless, while the Viscount, now serious, asks what they should do with this child. Cradled in her arms, Ash thinks the situation couldn't be worse. He can't allow the 7 wings to fall into the hands of the Elm family. He needs that strength for his revenge. But to everyone's surprise, the Viscount calmly declares that he will adopt the boy as his own son. Little Ash is shaken by the noble's unexpected choice. The man slowly reaches out, gently ruffling the baby's hair and saying he's still a hatchling who cannot fly yet. He promises to protect and raise him until the day he can soar on his own. Wide-eyed, the child is left speechless by such unexpected kindness. Suddenly, a loud thud echoes as one of the girls listening outside tumbles to the floor. It turns out the 4 girls have been secretly eavesdropping behind the door. The eldest quickly apologizes, explaining they were only worried about the baby. The girls then gather around, excited to meet their new little brother. One of them asks what his name will be, and after a brief pause, the woman looks down at the child in her arms, lifts him gently, and declares that his name will be Aster, a name shining like a newborn star. The scene skips ahead 10 years to the Grand Elm family mansion. Lord Heifrid arrives at the estate and is greeted by one of his guards. Moments later, A young man steps out of the carriage. It's Aster, now a teenager. He offers his hand to help his sister Alphen down, reminding her to be careful. The red-haired girl thanks him softly, a faint memory surfacing from when she was still a baby. In the present, the siblings walk side by side into a magnificent ballroom, attending the annual sword dance assembly, an elite social gathering for the martial nobles of the ducal house of Elmium. The event is meant to strengthen alliances, but it also serves as a stage for every house to display its most talented young swordsmen. As they enter, whispers spread through the crowd, mocking the Viscount's family for having no true heirs worthy of pride. With cold, judgmental stares, some nobles question how much longer that branch will continue to stain the Elmium name. Standing before the castle, Aster quietly realizes he has finally found the person he came to see. Alphen warns him not to let the cruel remarks shake him, clenching her fist as she insists they must not show weakness. Together, the two stand tall, united and unyielding. Their father steps forward, saying this tension reflects the Viscount house's current standing, and admits he brought his son here so he could witness it himself. He asks Aster if he feels disappointed by their situation, but with a calm and confident smile, Aster replies that such a cold welcome suits him perfectly. Hearing this, his father lets out a satisfied chuckle, saying that's reassuring. As Aster reflects on his past life as the disgrace of House Elmium, he recognizes that things are different now. With the power of the 7 wings within him and determination burning in his eyes, he prepares himself to rewrite his fate. The family moves toward the towering castle for the annual gathering. From a high window, 2 young men observe their arrival with open contempt. Keeping his face calm and focused, Aster walks forward with quiet determination as the 3 approach the grand entrance. In his mind, he plans to make a striking debut in high society. Inside the main hall, an arena stands at the center where 2 young swordsmen are locked in a fierce duel. It is an age where knights stand above all, and to be considered great, one must possess both power and grace. Power is proven through skill with the blade, while grace is measured by the prestige of one's family name. The duel intensifies as both fighters display refined techniques, but the true mark of superiority soon appears. A glowing crest ignites on one duelist's hand as he tightens his grip. Energy surges along his blade, and with overwhelming force, he shatters his opponent's sword, leaving the loser stunned. The wing crest, symbol of both strength and noble standing, shines brightly on the victor's hand, confirming his dominance. Watching from the balcony, Aster notes how intense the atmosphere feels. His younger sisters whisper that now they understand why Fred and Flair chose not to attend. In the distance, Aster catches sight of 2 young men mocking his family with scornful laughter, triggering memories of his past life when he was disgraced and crushed in a duel. Noticing his distant expression, his sister softly calls his name, worried. Another sibling asks if he's nervous about his first sword dance assembly, but with a faint smile, Aster replies that he isn't nervous. He feels nostalgic. The comment only confuses her further. Their father announces he must attend a meeting and instructs Aster to look after Alphen. She immediately protests, claiming she's more capable than him, while he teases her for being clumsy. Resting a firm hand on his son's shoulder, the Viscount advises him to make allies, then quietly warns him not to reveal anything about the 7 wings. As his father walks away, Aster reflects on those words while sensing the cold, watchful stares of nobles observing him from afar. Aster wonders how he's supposed to make friends when everyone seems to despise him, but a determined look hardens on his face as he resolves to follow his father's advice. His sister calls after him, asking where he's going, and he replies confidently that he's off to make some new friends. He descends the stairs and approaches a group of youths chatting on a sofa. A red-haired boy eyes him dismissively and asks who he is. Smiling, Aster greets him, calling him brother-in-law Darius, leaving the boy surprised. He introduces himself as Aster F. Elmheim, the younger brother, explaining he saw him from outside and wanted to come over and say hello. One of the others remarks that he's the adopted son of the Viscount family, and Darius's furious glare makes it clear he understands why Aster shamelessly uses the initial F. Aster recalls these boys, Darius and Brian, the ones who humiliated him in his past life. He remembers how terrifying they once seemed, but now they just look like kids playing at being important. That thought sharpens the determination in his eyes. His sister tugs at his arm, reminding him they should leave after he finishes his greetings. Just then, Darius calls out to Alphen, forcing her to stop with an angry look. He mocks her, asking if she won't hide behind her father this time, and commands her to come closer and entertain them. Alphen refuses firmly, reminding him that their families are not master and servant. Seeing the tension rise, Aster places a hand on his sister's shoulder, gripping hers firmly and saying he still has something to say. With a serious expression, he steels himself to confront his former tormentors. Darius's eyes flare with a dangerous malice as he begins hurling insults, mocking the Viscount for failing to protect the king and bragging about cutting off his own brother's arm, which makes Alphen furious. With a cruel smirk, Darius boasts that he's glad not to share the blood of a loser. Enraged, Alphen screams at him to take it back and lunges, landing a solid punch on the unsuspecting boy. Darius continues his taunts, saying her father has only useless daughters and must be disappointed. Smirking, he dumps his drink on her head, telling her to wear rags next time. Suddenly, Aster appears behind them, realizing that seeing their faces again ignites more anger than he expected. Swiftly, he snatches the bottle from Darius's hand. Alphen is stunned to see her brother defending her from public humiliation. Using magic to levitate the bottle, Aster calls out Darius's name, and in a flash, it crashes onto the redhead's head, shattering and leaving liquid dripping down his face, as Aster declares he's the same spoiled brat he always was. Darius is stunned, while Grian shouts in alarm. Aster glares, hand on his sword, eyes icy. He licks a finger, tasting the liquid, and mockingly says it's just grape juice. A perfect match for a spoiled brat like him. A flashback erupts. A golden explosion, someone shouting for Aster to grab on. 3 years prior, one of his sisters asks if he's trying to finish them all, holding an unconscious sibling as a dark aura swirls around him. A golden explosion bursts forth, and he realizes this is the power of the 7 wings. The Viscount appears, sword drawn, questioning whether such a dangerous force can truly be controlled. As young Aster is engulfed in a golden aura, his adoptive father's voice reaches him, guiding him through the surge of power. Back in the present, a guard bursts into the meeting room, shouting about an urgent matter. One of the nobles demands to know why the proceedings are being interrupted, and a messenger reports that the sons of the 2 elm houses are dueling. The news shocks both family heads, and without hesitation, the Viscount leaps to his feet and rushes toward the arena. Alphen follows, running to her father and pointing toward the central hall, where a man watches the unfolding scene with a smug smile. In the middle of the hall, Aster and Darius face off in a fierce duel, drawing the attention of every guest. From the balcony, a bearded noble remarks that the result could change everything, while other nobles exchange worried glances at the possible fallout. The man watching smirks, thinking this festival is about to become very ugly. In the arena, Darius activates his crest, mocking Aster as a fool for daring to challenge him. Sword rays flare as he reveals his powerful 4-wing crest for all to see, taunting Aster to display his own. Darius sneers, asking if Aster is too ashamed to reveal his after seeing his. Calmly, Aster replies that proudly showing a mere pattern isn't his style, adding with a confident smirk that he couldn't do something so embarrassing. Darius's face twists with fury at his cousin's audacity. Aster then proposes a wager. If he wins, Darius must apologize. Darius counters, declaring that if he wins, Aster will become his servant forever. With a roar, the redhead charges, shouting that victory will make Aster his dog for life. Their swords clash in a dazzling display of sparks and raw power. Aster expertly defends each blow, maintaining focus and calm. Holding his sword firmly, he prepares for his counterattack as his blade begins to glow. Darius boasts of the strength granted by his winged crest and launches a devastating strike, his sword wreathed in red energy. From the balcony, Alphen cries out her brother's name, worry etched on her face. The bearded noble watching comments that young Darius' swordsmanship is still unrefined, but the mana from his crest compensates for his lack of skill. He compares a 1-winged swordsman to the small flame of a candle, while a 4-winged fighter is like a full-blown explosion. As Darius taunts again, Aster blocks his attack effortlessly, leaving the redhead frustrated and demanding his cousin stop playing around and show his true power. From a distance, another noble smirks, saying, "The fight already seems decided." With his sword glowing, Aster remains calm, focusing on his next move. The two clash again, their blades wreathed in shimmering energy. Darius is stunned by the force behind Astor's strike, unable to comprehend it. Astor, eyes cold, tells him he talks too much and should focus. With a swift, precise motion, he sends his opponent flying. A golden aura surrounds Astor as he stands firm, sword in hand, recalling the 10 years he spent mastering mana for this one moment of revenge. His eyes burn with determination as he prepares his final strike. Lunging with devastating force, he overwhelms his cousin, who struggles to defend. The impact drives Darius back, leaving him unable to counter. Watching nearby, Brian is shocked to see his brother dominated so easily, disbelief on his face. Darius screams in desperation, insisting that with 4 wings he shouldn't be losing, but Astor remains calm, staring him down with eyes glowing a fierce gold. In a blinding flash, he releases the full power of his final attack. The crowd murmurs in awe and shock, noting that Darius is being completely outmatched. The nobles can't believe the Elmium family had someone this powerful hidden all along. Astor keeps his focus on the duel, ignoring the shocked chatter around him. From the balcony, the Viscount realizes the situation has escalated beyond control. Darius struggles, trying in vain to resist his cousin's overwhelming strength. In a flash of memory, he recalls Roderick's cruelty toward his own brother, fueling his fear and anger even more. Terrified, the redhead begs Astor to stop, but the young swordsman remains unmoved. From above, the Viscount yells for Astor not to do anything reckless. Yet a massive explosion of golden and dark energy erupts, filling the entire arena. Darius's father watches silently, arms crossed. When the dust settles, Astor drives his sword into the ground, ending the duel. The defeated redhead hears his cousin coldly remark that next time he should wear rags. With a glint of steel in his eyes, Astor adds, "We're something you don't mind getting wet." Sheathing his sword, he declares he is no longer the wingless Ash they once knew. From the balcony, Alphen watches with a mixture of admiration and relief. Astor thinks this victory is enough to clear his mind, until a dark, powerful energy suddenly fills the hall. The room glows red as a terrifying presence makes itself known. Wide-eyed, Astor turns and recognizes the source. His father, Roderick, standing at the top of the stairs, his face a mask of pure fury. Whispering his father's name, a mix of hatred and shock escapes him. The crowd gasps. No one can believe the Viscount's younger son defeated the main heir. Mutters spread that this gathering has descended into chaos. But even as Roderick steps forward, Astor stands firm, facing his father without a hint of fear. On the floor, Darius laughs, pointing at his cousin and mocking him as the head of the Elmium family. At that moment, Roderick descends the stairs, stopping directly before Astor. The clan leader glares at him with a cold, intimidating stare, saying nothing. But Astor doesn't flinch, meeting his father's gaze with eyes glowing gold. Crawling across the floor, the redhead pleads for his father's help, grabbing Roderick's leg and calling him father. Desperately, he points at Astor, begging Roderick to use his power to teach him a lesson for defying the family. Instead, Roderick slams his energy-charged hand into the floor, striking Darius's hand with brutal force. The boy screams in shock and pain, leaving the crowd horrified at the father's cruelty. Brian panics, screaming as he sees his brother attacked. Roderick coldly questions why the loser is laughing, claiming he has shamed the family. From the balcony, the Viscount shouts for him to stop, but Roderick remains unmoved, declaring that anyone who cannot take revenge has no right to hold a sword. The tension in the hall is suffocating, leaving everyone silent. Darius stays on the floor, his hand mangled, humiliated and writhing in agony, as Roderick glares with eyes blazing red. Astor steps forward, sword in hand, asking what he thinks he's doing. He reminds Roderick that his cousin has yet to apologize for his actions and requests that any punishment be postponed. Roderick sneers, calling him an orphan and questioning if he truly believes himself to be an Elmium. Astor firmly replies that he is the Viscount's son, taught with pride and honor. The man glances toward the balcony, where his brother's family watches, then falls silent. With his red aura flaring, he accuses Astor of bringing disgrace upon the family. From the balcony, a bearded noble watches seriously, arms crossed, while another mutters that this isn't just a simple children's fight. A smirking blue-haired youth remarks that he should understand the situation better than anyone. A memory flashes of the Viscount offering his arm as payment for disloyalty. Roderick points his sword at the young man, demanding what he will offer in return, and the youth respectfully begins to explain his position to his uncle. Astor explains that this wasn't a petty sibling quarrel, but a true duel to defend his house's honor. Roderick glares at him, fury blazing in silence. Astor reminds him of his own words, that anyone who can't take revenge has no right to wield a sword. From the balcony, Alphen and Gran watch, faces tight with worry. A blue-haired young man scoffs, dismissing the boy as just 10 years old, mocking him. Roderick's eyes flare with even darker fury, and he draws his sword, stating he understands the boy's position. Then, unexpectedly, he orders Astor to assume a combat stance. Shocked and speechless, the boy barely registers the command before his uncle's sword comes rushing toward him. The clash of steel echoes through the hall as Astor blocks the strike. Alphen covers her mouth in horror at the scene unfolding below. Suddenly, the Viscount screams his brother's name, leaping from the balcony at blinding speed to protect his adopted son. With a precise strike, he intercepts Roderick's attack, saving Astor. The force of the two swords meeting shatters the arena floor. Concerned, the Viscount asks if Astor is all right, but the boy doesn't answer, focused entirely on the fight. The impact is so great that it even cracks a pillar in the hall. Standing behind his adopted father, Astor remains firm, sword in hand, golden determination blazing in his eyes. Roderick steps back, observing with his usual cold, calculating gaze, then sheathes his sword without a word. With a serious, silent expression, he turns and ascends the stairs, leaving the main hall. The Viscount watches his brother leave, while Astor remains in his fighting stance, sword steady. Turning to his adopted son, he checks if he's all right. Astor replies that he managed to keep their promise. The man smiles warmly, telling him his performance was incredible. Meanwhile, Roderick ascends the stairs as Gran carries the wounded Darius away. From the balcony, a noble comments that Roderick's reaction was childish, but another notes that if he had let the boy talk, the family would have lost face. By facing the Duke, Astor has become a rising star. The nobles agree this was the best possible social showcase for the boy. Down below, Roderick glares with red eyes, sensing that an air of chaos is dawning. Alphen rushes to her brother's side, concern etched on her face as their father supports him. The scene shifts to a sunny day sometime later. In the castle courtyard, several knights watch a training session. Two young men spar with wooden swords, and one is struck down. The winner smiles, praising his opponent's performance. It's revealed the boy is young Master Astor. The knights comment on how terrifyingly skilled he is for his age, noting his training has grown even more intense since the festival. One recalls how Astor defeated the Duke's third son, a victory that brings satisfaction to those long looked down upon by the main family. In his thoughts, Astor reflects that this should silence anyone who calls his family a disgrace, but he wishes he could have tested his strength further on that stage. He knows that at his current level, he still has no chance against Roderick. He considers that a crest is only a marker of magical power. Magic itself is useless if one cannot fully master it. Even so, he still cannot access the full power of the seven wings and longs to test it without fear of losing control. Resolute, he continues his grueling training, eyes blazing with determination. Several knights lie defeated at his feet as he shouts, asking if anyone else remains. Suddenly, Alphen appears, teasing that he's going at it hard again. Alphen teases him, asking if he has any self-control and reminding him that their father is calling. Astor stops his training and promises he'll go see their father right away. As they walk, he notices her outfit and makes a comment, leaving the girl puzzled. He points out that it's rare to see her in that attire, since she used to dislike it for not being cute. She replies that balance is important, and seeing him reminded her she needed to change. Astor is surprised and speechless at his sister's new attitude. Smiling, she adds that when he returns, they'll spend a lot of time together. Grinning, Astor accepts his sister's challenge and jokingly asks her to go easy on him in their future training. Later, he arrives at his father's office and knocks. "Excuse me," he says, entering the room where his adoptive father waits. He asks if the man wanted to see him, and the Viscount gestures for him to take a seat. With a serious expression, Astor sits across from his father's desk. The Viscount remarks that 10 years have passed since they took him in, explaining that while he had considered waiting until the boy was older, he decided it was time to move forward. He places a box on the table containing a ring, leaving Astor confused. The Viscount explains that the ring is proof of the next head of the house, and that he wants Astor to be his successor. He adds that their family's position is delicate, but as a branch of the Elmheims, they must protect their territory, so the head of the family cannot remain vacant. Aster asks if his sisters are okay with the decision. The Viscount replies that they will return from the Night Academy in 3 days. Aster is surprised to learn that Martha and Kudo will be coming back. Aster thinks to himself that his sisters won't be happy about this news at all. The Viscount then reveals that one of them resents him for being male and possessing the 7 wings. Aster replies that he cannot accept the position yet, recalling how he once nearly harmed his sister because he couldn't control his magic. That memory leaves him lacking confidence to face his furious siblings. The Viscount smiles, remarking that sometimes he doubts Aster was ever a child. He picks up another box, explaining that while the ring had been a prize for his performance, he believes Aster might prefer what's inside this one. Wide-eyed, Aster opens the box to find a magic sword Graham, capable of controlling the 7 wings power. Later, they travel to a forest, where the Viscount says it should be safe. Aster asks why they didn't use the dojo, and the man replies it's a precaution. After all, his son often destroys the house when his magic goes uncontrolled. The Viscount explains that the sword is a relic passed down to the eldest children and, with a precise motion, unveils the blade. Aster is surprised, noticing it has no metal edge. His father explains that the blade manifests when magic is channeled into it. It's a potential blade completed by power. Testing it, a massive wave of red energy shoots from the sword, slicing through trees and carving a huge crater in the ground. The Viscount warns that if the wielder's magic is weak, the sword could drain them entirely. He offers the sword to Aster, asking if he wants to try it. Silent, Aster stares at the legendary weapon, then grips it with both hands. He focuses his magical power, and a golden aura begins flowing into the blade. A massive explosion erupts, and he struggles to stay upright as his magic pours uncontrollably into the sword. A beam of red light shoots into the sky, startling everyone nearby. A knight asks if a comet has fallen, while his sister watches from a distance, realizing with a serious expression that only her brother could have caused it. Back in the forest, Aster laughs, calling it an unbelievable sword. The Viscount asks what's so incredible about it, and the boy replies that it's the first time he's truly felt his own power unleashed. The Viscount reminds Aster that throughout history, no one has ever possessed the 7-wing crest. He says that if Aster can master this power, he could one day become an extraordinary swordsman. The young man imagines the possibility of surpassing even the most fearsome warriors. But his father warns that such power comes with danger. If others learn he wields the 7 wings, many will covet it. Some will envy him, others will try to manipulate him for their own gain, and some may even attempt to eliminate him, seeing him as an obstacle. Extending his hand, the Viscount tells Aster to grow strong. Aster grasps it firmly, promising he will never live a weak, miserable life again. He thanks his father and vows to master both the 7 wings and the sword. 3 days later, the family gathers to welcome the returning sisters. 2 young women arrive, and one introduces herself as the confident Kuryavka, smirking mischievously. She opens her arms, calling for the younger sisters for a reunion hug, but the little girls dash to hug Malfa instead. The redhead is confused, wondering why they ignored her. The girls explain that their sister Cud always messes up their hair. Crossing her arms, Kuryavka insists she would never do anything so rude. Turning seriously toward Malfa, she runs over and gives her a tight hug, asking if she's been well. But the hug is so forceful the girl cries out in surprise. The white-haired sister then looks to her father and asks where young Aster is. The Viscount replies that if she means Aster, that's another matter entirely. With a serious expression, Kuryavka seems lost in thought as she continues hugging her sister. The scene then cuts to a forest, where a massive explosion of red energy erupts. Aster is training with his new sword, struggling to control it. Sweat streams down his face, and exhaustion shows in his posture as he mutters that it's still not good enough. He can form the blade with his magic, but containing its power is all he manages. Standing in the crater left by his practice, he wonders how his father once wielded the sword so effortlessly. Suddenly, his sister appears, teasing that his display is quite flashy. He greets her, and she scolds him for not being there to welcome her home, asking with a playful smile if he doesn't think that was cold. She mentions she heard about the ceremony, saying he's become the talk of the town. Aster looks sheepish, complimenting her for excelling even as a trainee and for receiving the honorary Platinum Knight Medal. She replies that she needed it to inherit their father's title. With a serious gaze, she asks if he really refused the succession. In his thoughts, he recalls that it wasn't to spare her feelings. It was because he wasn't ready. She falls silent for a moment, reflecting, then accuses both him and their father of being cruel for knowing her dream. As she walks through the forest, sword in hand, Astor is confused by her sudden seriousness. Without warning, the redhead attacks, her sword wreathed in blue energy, slicing a massive tree in half. Astor barely dodges the falling trunk, startled, and yells, asking what she's doing. Smirking fiercely, she challenges him, saying, "It's been a while since we sparred." With a confident smile, Kuryavka says, "This time, I'm going all out." Astor shouts for her to wait, warning that his magic sword is still incomplete, but she asks if he would use that excuse on a real battlefield. He hesitates, then nods, seeming to understand her point. She reminds him that a knight must always be ready and warns him not to hold back. With that, she unleashes a powerful strike, and Astor realizes she isn't joking. He struggles to control his magic while dodging her swift, precise attack. The boy knows he has no choice. If he doesn't fight back, she could be hurt. Summoning his energy, the two siblings unleash their auras, their magic-infused blades clashing in a dazzling explosion of force.